On the KZRG Live line is Missouri U.S. Senator Roy Blunt. Good morning, sir.
Morning, guys. Good to talk to you. It's at 36 to 71. Sounds like a typical Missouri day. Double the 36 morning temperature almost by the end of the day. But it's about time, and I'm going to be home next week in southwest Missouri part of the time, and I'm looking forward to a great Missouri April week.
Good deal. Well, to start off, we wanted to kind of get your thoughts on following up on the Fort Hood shooting. We spoke with you about that last week, but also now another shooting at a military base, Camp Lejeune, where a Marine guard was shot to death by a colleague right at the gate of Camp Lejeune. It seems that just more and more violence at our military bases.
Well, I'm on the Defense Committee and the Defense Appropriating Committee as well. Yesterday, we had General Nero before us, and he and I talked about the mental health procedures that the military goes through. And I've been working hard to see that we'd have some parity in the way we deal with mental health in government programs and other kinds of health issues. And one out of four adults have a mental health disorder that's diagnosable and treatable. I think the military probably comes pretty close to reflecting that. Sort of a macho reason not to talk about these kinds of things in our society. And I think we've got to do a better job with this. For instance, when you transfer from one base to another, your other health records transfer, but your mental health records are only available to a very much more restricted transfer system. And we've got to look at that. But I think the greater point, which we made last week when you and I talked about Fort Hood, was that, American servicemen and women, their families have every reason to believe that the safest place you can be in the world is on a U.S. military base that's in this country. We have enough problems in Afghanistan and other places worrying about the 24/7 structure of who else may be on that base, what may be happening in the minds of some person from another country we're working with. We need to do everything we can to make these military bases absolutely secure so that when people are serving here, they are able to relax and know that they're in the safest place they could possibly be, short of some training accident or something like that happening to them. And I just think we're going to have a hearing today on health in the Defense Department. And clearly one of the questions I'm going to ask about is, what are we doing about mental health? Because when we find out more about this Camp Lejeune situation, the odds are that you've got somebody that had a behavioral problem that either wasn't being diagnosed, wasn't recognized, or wasn't being dealt with in a proper way. People don't just come to the gate of a base and start shooting someone that they serve with,
right,
unless there's some problem that they have and they're not dealing with it.
Well, Senator, I had a question about arming our troops that are here stationed at home on our base. I understand, like at the Fort Hood situation, that the only folks that had guns were the military police. Is that standard?
It has been since 1992. Since 1992, the military essentially disarmed people on the post. I'm at this point of the opinion that the Congress should be very interested in this, though the Congress shouldn't make a decision on this. I'm going to be interested in talking about whether at least the officers on a post, the officers in a unit, somebody shouldn't have a weapon just as a normal part of their of what they have as part of their military duty, so that anybody that wants to cause a problem knows that in all likelihood somebody in the room, in the training center, very, very close, is able to respond to that. Military police can't be and shouldn't be everywhere. And my personal view is the military needs to look at this policy, and Congress needs to ask about the policy and insist that it's being evaluated as if it was really the right decision to make 20 years ago that people couldn't carry those arms. In fact, if you're in a military post in Afghanistan, you have to have your weapon in order to get your food at the cafeteria. In other words, they're ensuring that military people carry their weapons on the post because the post has become a less safe place than it otherwise be. Every single person in Afghanistan on the base going to the mess hall has to have their weapon or they don't get to eat that day. So it's an absolute requirement. And I think we're going to have to, the military needs to look at whether or not that decision in 1992 was the right one.
KZRG News Time at 7:46. We're speaking with Missouri U.S. Senator Roy Blunt. Wanted to switch gears a little bit. The president taking some flack this week after numbers have been released about the gender gap in the White House. On one hand, the president says that federal employees should all be paid the same regardless of gender, but it seems that the White House not following through on that, with women making around 80 cents to the dollar of men. Wanted to get your comments on that.
Well, I think one of the laws for a long time has been that people should be paid the same, and for the same work, the same background to the job, the same things that you bring to that job every day, absolutely there should be pay equality. And the best, apparently, that the White House spokesman can say about that is, well, the White House isn't as bad as a lot of other places are. It takes a lot of nerve on the part of the president to decide to make this a major issue when any evaluation of his White House from the very first year has shown that men and women working in the same job are often not paid the same. That's a violation of the law, and it's a violation of common sense. The president nor Senator Reid are bringing these issues up to actually solve a problem. They are just trying, in my view, to distract from the foreign policy problems the country has and the significant problems that the president's health care law has created. And they want to talk about anything else, and apparently are willing to talk about it even though it's sort of embarrassing for them to change the topic, because they're really not doing what they say everybody else should do. The White House should be the example here, rather than just their spokesman actually said, well, we're not as bad as a lot of people are, or something to that regard, and that's both embarrassing and not acceptable.
KZRG News Time 7:48. I know we're running short on time, Senator, but I really quick wanted to touch on the Hire More Heroes Act, which is legislation you introduced in the Senate recently.
Well, I did, and whether it was if you want to talk about the workplace, we ought to be talking about how we get more people to work, how we create more jobs and more opportunity. One of the results of the Affordable Health Care Act, or the so-called Affordable Health Care Act, is employers who didn't have more than 50 people don't want to have more than 50 people, because that's the cutoff line where the government starts determining what you should do at your business, So the Hire More Heroes Act is for our military veterans, for people who have health care, military retirees, and others who have health care benefits anyway. If you hire them, that doesn't count toward the 50. And it's a real opportunity for a business that needs to have a few more people to look at veterans first and still be able to maintain their own ability to have the kind of insurance they think they can afford at work, and that the people that work for them would like to have, rather than to have the government prescribed insurance that is not meeting people's needs in many cases, as well as the insurance that they've traditionally had and would like to keep. But Hire More Heroes is exactly that. It's another way to create an opportunity for servicemen and women to have a chance to work in the private sector after they've left the service, but still have those military health benefits.
Well, Senator Roy Blunt, we appreciate your time this morning.
Hey, good to talk to both of you. Look forward to seeing you soon.